Do you ever have trouble finding inspiration to write music? Is writing music just not that fun anymore?
You probably get these ads all the time.
Co-producer plus arcade.
That's right there. Yeah, that's it. That's fire.
It's almost like a battle between these two companies, even though they are very different services. Splice or Output, which one will actually make your music better? I decided to compare them. This is not necessarily about who is the winner. It's more about whether the particular features of each fit your workflow as a music producer. If you're new here, I'm Jose Luis Revelo. I've had a long career in music for media, and on this channel, I dive deep into music and music tech. Splice and Output are two of the most popular platforms for samples and sound libraries, but they're very different in how they approach sound discovery. So let's break it down. Splice and Output are often pitched as competitors, but they are different tools. Splice is more of a library. You search and drag your choice of sample into your DAW, while Output Arcade is more of an instrument. You load a kit and play, or an AI assistant to find samples, co-producer, and create variations on them, the reimagine feature. Splice is a gigantic pool of sample libraries. There are no official published figures, but someone online calculated that at this point there may be a few billion samples contained in it. I don't know. It might be the biggest library aggregator out there. And with the recent acquisition of Spitfire and the introduction of the instrument, Splice is moving in the general direction of plug-in instruments. But the instrument is very basic right now. Output is more of a virtual instruments and effects company. Their main sample plugin Arcade gives you access to a huge library, curated into what Output calls lines, libraries grouped by instrument or genre. Once you load them into Arcade, you have an interface that makes the different elements playable and gives you quick access to manipulation tools. What do you get for your money? On Splice, you pay for credits. 100 credits equals 100 samples or 30 synth plugin presets. I use this all the time with Serum. The Sounds Plus plan costs $13 a month. The Creator plan costs $20 a month and gives you unlimited access to premium instruments for the instrument. I'm gonna keep making fun of that generic name. But it also gives you access to rare finds. It's obvious they know they have a problem with people using the same stuff over and over. The Creator Plus plan costs $40 a month and gives you 500 monthly credits. Whatever credits you haven't used roll over to the next month, but only if you stay subscribed. That's how I've gotten to this ridiculous amount over the years. They say that they're listening closely to our community about the instrument and its place in the Creator plan, but that it's not always going to be available on the Creator Plus plan. That sounds to me like paving the way to later making it available only on the most expensive plan. The instrument is a point of contention because they used what was originally Spitfire Labs, a real community that contributed actual instruments to it, as the basis for the instrument now. In general, the acquisition of Spitfire was not well received. With the threat of losing your credits, they exert a little bit of psychological pressure for you to stay. However, you own the WAV files you've downloaded from Splice forever, even if you cancel. With Output, you pay for access. It's $13 a month for Arcade, but in my opinion, the better deal is their Output One plan, which costs $15 a month. It's a great deal because it also includes Co-Producer, a plugin that you insert on your master, let it hear your music, and then you can ask it in natural language to find you a sample that goes with your music. Plus, create variations of it with the Reimagine feature, supposedly using an ethically trained AI model. With Output 1, you also get 3 great plugins, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. I've used Portal, Thermal, and Movement for years now. Top-notch effects plugins. Portal is a granular effects processor. Thermal is one of the best distortion saturation plugins ever made, probably better than others in the sense that you have a lot of real-time control. And speaking of which, Movement is a modulation plugin that can animate your sounds in all kinds of ways. Splice has a similar functionality to Co-Producer now, but at the moment only if you're running Pro Tools or Ableton Live. The rest of us get the rudimentary Splice Bridge plugin, and all it does is just pipe audio from the Splice app into one of the channels in your DAW. Where's the Cubase integration, Splice? Splice boasts millions of samples across every genre you can imagine. EDM, hip-hop, cinematic, even niche stuff like hyperpop, neuro. If you want sheer quantity, Splice wins. Output, on the other hand, focuses on curated packs. If you want curated, playable content, Output might be more for you. Arcade's curated packs can be as diverse as the stuff on Splice, but I've always had the impression that it's the same team of producers creating this content for Output, or that they create them under strict direction from Output. On Splice, you get a wider variety of sounds and colors from creators that go all the way from famous artists to obscure production teams. How easy is it to find and discover stuff? Both platforms are easy to navigate, but the philosophy is different. Splice is like I call it a treasure hunt. It's like a giant supermarket. You can find anything, but it can take time. You search the app, audition in sync with your project, download, and drag into your DAW. The search engine is powerful, filter by BPM, key, instrument, genre. But searching endlessly can kind of kill your vibe and give you sometimes option paralysis. Arcade is like a playable loop. It feels like a boutique store. Smaller selection, but everything is curated and inspiring. You load the VST, download a kit, and play loops via MIDI. Or you load Co-Producer on your master bus and find something based on your music. You will likely have a full loop running quickly with Output, but you might spend the rest of the session fighting to make it sound less like Arcade. Both platforms launched features recently to help with discovery. Splice has Create, a feature that in my opinion more often than not produces a chaotic mess. The system finds randomly samples to create a stack, but the system doesn't really deeply analyze what it pairs with what. Often you end up with straight 4/4 drums along with swing feel percussion, for example. They also have a few similar search results per sample on the search page. This feature used to be terrible, but I have to admit it has improved a lot. And like I said, if you use Pro Tools or Ableton Live, you have tighter integration with your session. You can have Splice give you suggestions based on parts of your session you upload. Output, like I mentioned before, has Co-Producer, which finds samples based on your track, and Pack Generator. You give it a prompt and it assembles 4 sample packs based on it. The results were hit or miss for me with Pack Generator. A big problem with these platforms is the possibility of someone else using the same sample and putting a copyright claim on your material down the line. With Splice, everyone ends up using the same Oliver Power Tools sample pack, for example. But in reality, there is way more material than just the top packs. You just have to search deeper. Big tip, don't search by popularity on Splice if you're trying to differentiate from the crowd. Using random search, I've come across many overlooked gems. Arcade is kind of liable to get the same impression. For example, everyone recognizes that specific vocal chop from the hooked line. On Output, though, it is easier to make a sample yours from the beginning using the internal manipulation tools in Arcade. And they go way further with the best tool for this, in my opinion, out of the two. You can ask it to reimagine a sample, and their AI engine will produce a set of slight variations on it. It's pretty good. Some technical differences to consider. Splice puts a content folder in your hard drive. You can also have it on an external drive, but this folder is cluttered with subfolders and thousands of weirdly named files. You need your own organization system if you want access to it. I recommend using something like XO to keep a similarity cloud of all your samples. Arcade manages its own content in a folder that you can also move to an external drive, but you can't really see the samples. It's a proprietary system, presumably to prevent access to the samples if you stop your subscription. Splice adds zero CPU load, it's just audio files. Arcade is a plugin with some degree of CPU usage depending on how capable your system is. What happens when I cancel my subscription? On Splice, you keep your hard drive of WAV files, but you lose your stockpiled credits. You still have access to your samples inside the Splice interface, and you can re-download them if you need to. On Arcade, as I said before, and this is kind of a big flaw, you rent the instrument. If you cancel, you can't open the plugin to change the key of a loop you wrote 2 months ago. I'd say export stems for projects you use this on, just in case. Actually, exporting stems at the end is just good practice in general. This is how their features end up stacking up to each other. And this is my opinion. To me, if you only want to pay for one of them, the better deal might be Output One. Co-producer along with Reimagine are killer features. Splice simply does not have anything equivalent to Reimagine at this point, and you will need it to make the samples yours and not get copyright strikes down the road. Add to that the excellent plugins included, and it's a good deal for $15 a month. On the other hand, if you are thinking of paying for both, in my opinion, they do have a place in different parts of the workflow, at least for me and how I use them. The immediacy of Arcade, Co-producer, and Reimagine is better for inspiration. You can pull up something to play in Arcade quickly and get a fuller beat going with Co-producer's suggestions and Reimagine's variations. But I always make sure I set aside time, because that's the problem with it. It takes time to wade through the results on Splice. If you do it, you'll find hidden gems, unique stuff, whereas Output's library sounds more, I don't know, uniform? But really, there's no way you cannot accomplish equally good results with each. I'm curious to hear about your experiences on each of these platforms. Which one you have used? Do you have any gripes with it? As always, thanks for watching. If you found this useful, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.